Right. Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's LEAP webinar, Resource Management Unfiltered Survey Results. I'm Nora, your host for this session, and I'm so excited to have you with us today. Today is a special day as we're pulling back the curtain on what's really going on in resource management in 2025. We surveyed over 100 professionals across different industries to uncover the trends, challenges, and changes shaping the field. And we've got some fascinating insights we just can't wait to share with you. But before we dive into today's matter, we would love to get a quick pulse check for everyone here in the room. So we've prepared a little question. Edom, if you could launch it, that would be wonderful. We've got the following question. What's the biggest shift you have seen in resource management over the past year? So if you just think about the last 12 months, what's been the biggest shift? Maybe it has been greater focus on people and well-being, maybe more use of data and forecasting tools, a shift toward remote distributed planning, perhaps? Or has it been an increased pressure to do more with less, shifting from tactical to strategic resource management, or maybe not so much has actually changed, or it's been something else? In that case, we would love to hear from you in the webinar chat. So feel free to have a quick think and give your indication now. And let's see, Edom, feel free to close. What is the winning shift? All right, here we go. This is always the most interesting part. We've got 60% saying more use of data in forecasting tools. Very interesting. And also the equivalent amount, 60% of people have been mentioning a shift from tactical to strategic resource management. And on the second spot, we've got greater focus on people and well-being. So as we're moving into today's discussion, we'll also try to reflect on this indication we have gotten from you, the focus on data, forecasting, strategic perspectives, and people and well-being. Thanks so much for joining us on that quick survey. This webinar is part of RUN's LEAP webinar series, Igniting the Future of Resource Management. And at RUN, we really believe resource management is so much more than just schedules and spreadsheets. It's really about creating smarter and more people, human-centered ways of working. And with LEAP, with this webinar program, our goal is to challenge the traditional approaches, spark fresh ideas, and bring inspiring new perspectives to our resource management community. So today, we will be exploring what the future of resource management could and should look like. This webinar is brought to you by RUN. RUN helps teams effortlessly match the right people to the right work, making resource management smoother, smarter, and less of a headache. As you follow our discussion, please capture any questions that might pop up in the Q&A section of Zoom webinar, because this is really all about you, the resource management community. So everything that we'll be sharing today is really aimed to equip you with important insights, knowledge, and if there's any aspect you would love to deep dive into, we would be more than happy to do so. So you are a critical part of this conversation. Feel free to contribute also using the chat. If there's something that stands out, resonates with you, let us know. Use the reactions here in Zoom. Let's make the most of all the Zoom features there are, basically. And it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to today's fantastic speakers. I'm super excited. They're both here with us. First up, I would like to introduce you to Nicole Tiefensee, RUN's COO and co-founder. And with over 15 plus years in technical project management, Nicole brings all of her deep expertise in complex resource challenges to us internally and to the resource management community and all of our customers externally. Nicole, this is your third time on the Leap stage. I could not be more excited. Welcome back. It's so, so nice to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks, Nora. Great to be here.
Fantastic. And I can see you're all practicing the reactions virtually in Zoom, which is super, super lovely. Thanks for the very warm welcome here for us. And joining Nicole, we've got our wonderful Hannah Taylor Chadwick, the mastermind behind our resource management unfiltered survey. Hannah's passion is really all about creating content that shifts the resource management conversation forward. And she's here to walk us through the key findings today. So, Hannah, we're super, super glad you're here with us. Welcome to the Leap stage.
Thank you. Super glad to be here as well. And I think we've got a couple of people who responded to the survey joining us today. So, hi, thank you for giving your answers, and hopefully you'll be interested to see your contributions coming to life today.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's kick right into things. I want to start, and I love to do that, any conversation with a very simple question, or a simple word rather, the why. So if we think about this particular survey, it's the first of its kind, really. So I'm really curious, Hannah, what sparked the idea for this survey on resource management now in 2025?
Well, I think the main thing that got us thinking, or maybe we should do a report, maybe we should do a survey and get some data for ourselves, was that there's not a ton of resource management specific resources that are full of data. Obviously, the RMI has some great resources, but there are a lot of questions that we were asking ourselves, that we were thinking, oh, we don't actually have any data to back this up. So why don't we go out and chat to the community and find out firsthand what people are saying? Yeah, so especially I think when it comes to sentiment about the practice and how not just what people are doing, but how they're feeling, we were quite keen to understand a little bit more there. And we just really wanted to work on amplifying the value of resource management, which hopefully the first of its kind, first of run doing something like this, is going to serve as a baseline for that we can build on in the future.
Amazing. And just listening to you and, taking a step back, looking at resource management as a practice, as a function, it's quite a new function. So it makes sense that there's not a whole lot of resources out there. So I think it's utterly important to really, do research to really hear those voices. So yeah, that makes complete sense. And now, Nicole, from your perspective, what has been the key trigger, the key idea from your perspective to start this?
Yeah, absolutely. And pretty much as Hannah said, right, there aren't a lot of dedicated resources out there, or dedicated content out there specifically focused on the field of resource management. Project management gets a lot of attention, product management gets a lot of attention, even operations get a lot more attention. But yeah, resource managers are often left out, even though it's such a critical business function, right? So yeah, we believe that project managers deserve better support, and better insights and better recognition. So that survey that we put out is just one part of that, along as the webinars and some of the other content we're producing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your additional thoughts. And when we look at the survey, what did you really hope to uncover or achieve with this initiative? Nicole, maybe you can kick us off with that one.
Yeah, I would say we kind of really wanted to understand how people are feeling in their roles, right? What motivates them, what frustrates them, what keeps people up at night, as well. So just getting some of those first-hand insights, and getting them kind of on like written out and on a report as well. We're obviously having a lot of conversations day to day, and that gives us a lot of insights. But this is just giving a bit more specific, and something that we can use to benchmark as well.
Nice. Thank you, Nicole. Any additions, Hannah?
I mean, like Nicole said, just wanted to understand what people are feeling. And, I think it's easy to rely on assumptions, or things that we hear regularly, I guess, from customers, but it's good to get some data points to back that up. But also, as you said, resource management is a newer function. It's always evolving. So I think we were quite interested in creating that benchmark that we can then compare against in the future and maybe track how things are evolving and changing.
Absolutely. Nice. So when we think about the why, it's quite clear now. Thanks for outlining that in such a nice way. Now let's move on to the how. That's also very interesting. A first of its kind survey. So I'm sure many of the respondents and people dialing in today are wondering, what types of professionals responded? What was the range of roles and industries, etc. So you very kindly prepared a little slide, which I'm very happy to pull up. And maybe you can walk us through the survey methodology in a nutshell.
Yeah, sure. We got over 100 responses, which was amazing. So again, thank you for everyone who or who's watching in the future who filled that out. I think one of the highlights of my year has been watching those responses come in and getting to read everyone's responses. Super exciting. So in terms of industries, just over half or around just under half, around half of responses came from people in the IT and consulting industries. But beyond that, we did also get a huge number of responses from other industries like architecture, nonprofits, media, education, and some others, which I just think really went to show how valuable resource management can be across all types of businesses, and every industry can really benefit from maturing in that area. And then roles, unsurprisingly, the most frequent role we saw was resource manager or, resource management or, something along those lines. But we did also get responses from people in delivery, development, operations, and some, executive leaders as well, which was exciting to get like insights from across a range of different roles. And again, I think it just goes to show how resource management touches so many departments and it's not, it's an organization wide activity. It's not just limited to one department or one role. And then lastly, we asked people about placement and where in the organization the responsibility for resource management sits. It's probably not surprising to see that around half was in like project management, operations types roles. But we did see a small percentage coming saying that they actually have their own RMOs, and this was more closely associated with enterprise level companies and maybe more mature organizations. But yeah, I think we're quite keen to see if that's going to change in the future as resource management evolves and becomes more commonplace. Are more businesses going to start building their own RMOs? So watch the space. Maybe we'll report on that again in the future.
Fantastic. Nice. So now we have a good understanding of the how and who has been contributing to all of these insights. I think now we've got the perfect basis to actually dive into the key insights. I can't wait. So we have basically prepared the 4 key insights for you today, and let's kick off with the first one. So learning number 1, capacity planning is the top goal within resource management. Tell us more about that, Hannah.
So we asked people what their primary objective was with resource management. And around a quarter said capacity planning, which was closely followed by improving utilization, which, I think together those, they're both activities that are quite closely related and use, are kind of reliant on matching supply to demand, which we thought was an interesting trend that is maybe suggesting a growing awareness about the importance of making informed decisions based on up-to-date data. So yeah, we thought that was quite interesting. That's like maybe the focus of 2025 for a lot of organizations.
Nice. And when you look at this, Nicole, is there anything that springs to your mind?
Yeah, it's not a surprise. I think it matches what we are hearing from our customers as well. And I'd say it actually kind of reflects that shift that we've been seeing over the past year, and we saw it in the survey results earlier as well. That resource management is evolving, right? It's evolving from that purely operational function to being more and more recognized as a strategic driver in the organization. I think that's kind of reflected in here as well. Capacity planning is more of a strategic tool, so not just about assigning people to projects or managing them the shorter term. Yeah, you're balancing the team workloads across multiple departments, multiple initiatives, right? You're proactively planning for new initiatives. You're making hiring decisions for the future. So very much, yeah, reflected with what we're seeing. Interestingly, though, I find that while this is the goal and while we're seeing that shift from tactical to strategic, we're also seeing that many teams that we're talking to aren't quite at the level of maturity yet to fully achieve that. So I think, yeah, as an industry and as kind of resource managers, we've got a lot of opportunity for growth and improvement in that area.
Nice. So we are already tying this to our poll very nicely. I think the next point will also achieve the same, which I'm very happy about. So while capacity planning is the #1 objective, we learned there is a little bit of a problem here, Hannah.
Yeah. Yeah, big problem. Accuracy in terms of reporting and, I guess being able to work efficiently as well is being held back by outdated tools and manual processes. So around 42% said that a reliance on these things is outdated processes and maybe unfit for purpose tools is preventing them from being truly effective in their efforts. But then on top of that, a third blame a lack of visibility into resource availability. Together, these things is probably causing big problems because people are struggling to get the accuracy they need when reporting on availability or matching supply with demand. They're trying to make decisions when they don't have full visibility into that data and the information that they need in order to do that properly. And I think if we jump onto the next slide, we'll be able to see why. Yeah. Why that is. So around 60% or 2/3 of people are still using spreadsheets to support their resource management processes in some capacity. That doesn't mean they only use spreadsheets. A lot of people said that they use spreadsheets in conjunction with other tools, like maybe resource management software or project management software. There's, a lot of people are, layering up tools together. And this can be people are using spreadsheets for data inputting. Some people are using it for skills management. But having things split across tools is making things a lot harder. And also using spreadsheets isn't designed for resource management, so it's potentially causing some complexities there for people.
Absolutely. So here we have the tie back to our poll question around data, right? So yeah. I found this quite amazing that the first learning is already very much what we heard in the little poll here at the beginning. Cool. What about learning #2? What else stood out when we looked at the results, Hannah?
So after some maybe not so good news, thought we'd break with some good news that resource management as a function is growing, or at least remaining stable, which is great. I think this growth potentially suggests that there is greater recognition of the benefits that resource management is bringing for organizations. We got some great quotes at the side where people are calling out. Just to contextualize this, we also asked people to share how they feel about the state of resource management in general, which is where these quotes are coming from. One person said that more companies are embracing resource management as a necessary function for growth, which is great. We love to see that. But someone else shared, but perhaps the other side of the coin is that they feel resource management is still underestimated, both in terms of its financial benefits and qualitative benefits. So what we're seeing is that, yes, there's growth, but there are maybe still some areas where people aren't quite realizing the full potential. So we're moving in the right direction, but there's potentially still a little bit more work that can be done on, the awareness of the full range of impact resource management can have.
Yeah, that's it. So Nicole, when I look at this, I'm a bit surprised, I'm going to be honest, to hear that 50% basically experience growth. When I look on my LinkedIn, it feels very different. So I'm very curious to hear your take on this learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we kind of I talked about earlier, I think resource management definitely is an evolving function, and it is getting more recognition. That's for sure. That's what we're hearing as well. I think the C-suite is listening more. That strategic value is being recognized more. I think when it comes to the value of resource management and amplifying that value, it's a massive topic for 2025. Earlier this year, at the Resource Management Global Symposium, the main theme of the conference was amplify the value of resource management as well. So it's being recognized there as well. And I do think sometimes that as resource managers, we also tend to undersell ourselves a little bit and undersell our value. Actually, at the keynote of the conference, Ryan Childers, he asked a question to the audience, which I found really interesting, and he asked something along the lines of who here likes to tick off projects and tasks from their list, right? And a lot of hands went up, including mine, and it kind of really. Exactly, really stuck with me because I feel like in many operational roles, not just in like resource management, we often kind of define our work really by what we do, so that the tasks, the reports that we generate, the updates we make, rather than how our work really impacts the business. So I think there is, again, lots of opportunity and a bit of a challenge for us there as well as project managers and resource managers as an industry and a profession to really help elevate that value of resource management and to position ourselves as resource managers, not just as an operator, right? But really as that strategic contributor to the business. Yeah, it's not surprising. I think the results, yeah, still a bit of work to do there.
Yeah, amazing. It's a good call to action to keep on communicating the value of the resource management function. We can't over communicate, it seems. Nice. So with that, over to learning number 3, Hannah.
Yeah, this is a big one. And I think everyone here, I don't need to tell you that data is integral to the activities that we do in resource management and all of the tasks that are going to help organizations become more proactive and strategic. And, based on what we've been seeing earlier on, the other learnings, people are prioritizing tasks that are very, very data reliant. But what we found when we asked whether or not people actually trust that data is that only 10% have total trust in the numbers that they're working with, and only 8% actually just don't trust their data at all. Most people kind of sat somewhere in the middle, but what we'd love to see is working towards maybe moving maybe kind of implementing some processes that are going to help improve trust in that data, and working towards getting not trusting your data at all, working towards moving that as close to 0% for next year.
Yeah, wow, that's a good goal. Let's get that 10% up. Nice. And closely aligned is this insight over here, Hannah.
Yeah, so the reason this all matters and the low trust in data is so important is because data reliant activities are seen as critical. When we asked about how important it is to have real-time visibility over people's time, I don't think it's going to shock anyone that 80% said it was either very important or absolutely critical. Only 1% said that it's not important at all. So yeah, I'm not sure how they're understanding what's happening. I'd be curious to hear a little bit more. But yeah, no surprise that people are seeing that as important. Yet getting that true visibility is impossible if you don't have accurate data. Yeah, and as one of the quotes that we got says that their organization depends on their data and forecasts for everything. So if the data they're working with isn't accurate, we can probably assume that those decisions and those processes are maybe not accurate either.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for walking us through this very interesting graph. Nicole, when you look at this, what are your thoughts and reflections? Is it surprising to you?
Yeah, a few things jump to mind here. I mean, first of all, I just kind of want to touch on that quote because that I think really resonates. And we just earlier talked about amplifying that value of resource management. I think it's actually incredibly hard to do if the underlying data that you're actually basing a lot of your work on isn't solid, because without the good data, you cannot generate meaningful insights for the business, and therefore you cannot help the company make better decisions. And if your poor data leads to bad decisions, not just bad for the business, but it really kind of erodes the trust in the resource management function as well. So I think and we hear that over and over and over and over again. I think data is actually the big topic, because it's the basis of everything else. So I think that's probably the first comment I would make here. The other thing I wanted to add as well is that resource management just relies on so many different pieces of data to get a really good picture of what's going on. So if you want to be really truly be strategic and again generate these really good insights, you need data usually from the sales team, right? They're feeding in the demand data. You need the project managers feeding in the project timelines and what resources might be needed to deliver projects. You've got HR involved right there, having the contract data, and then finance with they've got the costs and the budget and all that. So you are actually not just dealing with one part of the business. You're having to interact and set up, automations, connections, data flows with all these different areas, and that makes it even more challenging, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely valid point. Yeah, thanks for adding your reflections on that. I just received a question from Kathleen. She's asking if we will be sending out the slides, the survey information summary, and I want to guarantee you, yes, absolutely. If you stay until the end today, you will get it right away. So stay tuned. Nice. And after data, there is another very hot topic we can't not talk about. We have to talk about it, which is AI. Hannah, what did we learn in the survey about AI?
Yeah, I mean, with the boom that AI is having at the moment, we couldn't not ask how people are currently using it, and whether or not, first of all, they are using it. And what we found is that only around 10%, 11% are currently using AI to support resource management processes. And this is usually for tasks like predictive analysis and skills matching. That's where it seems to be starting for people. So what we're seeing is that there's potentially a demand. What the numbers are showing is that almost half aren't using it, but they are considering using it if they're not already. But potentially they either don't know where to access AI supported features, or that they don't know how to use them and begin implementing that. So there's a need there that potentially is going to be better met in the future. But what's interesting is that sentiment seems to be split 50-50, and this is potentially also reflecting what we're seeing in the wider world, is that lots of people are really excited about what AI is going to mean, but a lot of people are also potentially apprehensive about what that's going to look like for the future for roles and for their day-to-day, how it's going to impact tasks. So we got a couple of interesting quotes here again. One person seemed quite excited, saying that with advancements in AI, resource management will have a new shape. What that shape will look like, I think we're all excited to see what that could be. And then someone also said that resource management cannot be handled by coding. It needs to consider emotion. So again, maybe a little bit of nerves there, but we will see how that evolves and how AI is going to support the more human elements of resource management as well.
I love it, because now we're coming back to our poll again, where the well-being of people was on the second spot, right, in our rating. So yeah, it really can't be missed in resource management. The people experience, the well-being is of critical importance, and we have to raise the question, how can AI cater for that dimension, which is not just numbers, ones and zeros. So thank you, Hannah, for walking us through here. I loved your reference when you mentioned that for those 10% roughly who are already experimenting with AI, that one of the first good use cases is skills management, skills matching. And I just want to double click on that, highlight that. Anything that is complex is a good use case for AI, generally speaking. And skills, I mean, it can't get more complicated than that. We had a dedicated webinar on that. If you're interested, I would highly recommend checking it out. And just the sheer complexity of, what you want to measure. And basically, if you have many people in your organizations working in different functions, this very quickly becomes extremely complex. So I love that spark that you just shared, maybe to look into skills management as a first step. Nicole, when you look at this, I know that you're already diving into AI yourself, and at Run, we're also looking into it a lot lately. So what is your take on this insight?
Yeah, I mean, lots of thoughts actually on the topic. I would probably say first of all, I mean, AI is here. It's here now, and I would say it's reshaping the way we work. It's reshaping the way we all work, not just resource managers. So I would say to the audience who's listening today, or other resource managers, if you're not using AI today, if you don't know much about what it's all about, go out there and focus on educating yourself first. Do invest the time. It's going to be really important. The more you engage with this new technology, and the sooner you do that, the more confidently you'll be able to navigate this area. And I know there's a lot of free learning resources out there as well. Plus, as you said already, Nora, just maybe explore how you can apply AI to your job today. And it doesn't have to be in big ways, maybe in small ways in your current roles, using maybe ChatGPT or some other things to help you kind of maybe generate formulas for your spreadsheets to help clean them up, right? There's lots of ways you can slowly get started. But definitely also seeing that anxiety and that uncertainty out there. Not just from our prospects, customers, also from our own teams and friends and family that I'm talking to. Questions like, is AI replacing my job? and I think that anxiety is kind of normal, like with change. When you're kind of shifting big things, it comes with a lot of uncertainty and unknowns. So but I would say it's not replacing the job, to your point, and what we are seeing in that quote here as well. It's reshaping how we work, and I would say, like, at Run, we're looking at it like, how can AI actually add value to the role and to the functions, because there is a lot of more like routine tasks and things you can automate to give you quicker, better insights. You mentioned the skills and the skills matching. If we use AI to take care of these, then as resource managers, or as generally as managers, or individual contributors in the business, we have a lot more time to dive into things like strategy, or the people and the human side, that we need to do our jobs really, really well. So that's how we're approaching AI at Run as well. And we've got some really exciting things brewing as well around like using, you mentioned the skills. We've got an AI recommendation engine that we're currently working on that would be really helpful to really find and fill demand by things like, by a skill or adjacent skill as well, because that's the kind of nice thing about AI. It doesn't have to be that exact match. We can kind of actually see, well, if I have someone who doesn't have that, I guess, JavaScript skill, for example, there might be someone with kind of similar programming skills that I can offer up as a potential person to fill in a job.
Yeah, amazing. I very much resonate with what both of you have shared. I think it's about recognizing, appreciating that there is a lot of fear, and at the same time embracing a very lighthearted and almost experimental mindset, right? So I think my biggest recommendation, inspiration would be to start really playing with it. And just listening to both of you, one idea could be, just as a resource manager, to ask ChatGPT or your AI tool of choice, how could AI make my work easier? Or maybe you can reflect on what are the tasks that take a long time or really don't feel that meaningful. And that's a good basis, just some food for thought. So now we have covered the 4 big learnings of the survey. After the why and the how and the what, I now want to ask both of you, as we step back, reflecting on those learnings, what has surprised you? Was there any answer, insight in there that stood out in particular, Hannah?
I was quite surprised by the response to the AI question. I think I was expecting there potentially to be a little more people using it, or at least more interested in using it. But I imagine that is something that will change in the next year. As you know, as Nicole was saying, like AI is something, it's here, it's a fact, like it's not going anywhere. And we're all learning to embrace it. So I'm interested to see how that number will change. First of all, how many people are actually using it day to day, but also how many people are interested in seeing how it could change things for them. I was also quite interested in the importance of data. Like I said before, we all know it's important, but it's quite cool to see it laid out there in in the numbers that people are very, very, very aware of that importance. But it's also potentially some challenges there are holding people back. So can we close the gap between trust and importance, and really take those steps to becoming more strategic?
Nice. Yeah, thanks for sharing your surprises you had while reading through the results. Nicole, how about you? Did you have similar surprises or something else that stood out to you?
Yeah, very similar. I wouldn't say too surprised by the results. It very much reflects what we've been hearing from people out there. The AI one, I agree. I would have thought more people already playing and experimenting with that. It'll be really interesting to see if we run that survey again next year, how those results are shifting. So I predict there's probably going to be a big shift there in the next 12 months, which is exciting. Other than that, yeah, the data is such a big thing, and in some ways, I'm just both a little, I know this is a big problem, but I'm also a little cosmic that in 2025 this is still such a massive problem that we're tackling, and so seeing some of the quotes come through that really resonated, and I think there's so many different aspects that play into the data question, right? And in the survey we saw them all reflected. There is the availability of data, right? Actually, even just getting access to the data that you need first and foremost. And we saw a lot around timeliness, how frequently can resource managers actually access and refresh and update that data, and that kind of hangs in with a lot of integrations and automations and all that as well. And then the data quality as a third one. So all three are obviously equally important. And again, I think there was a quote out there just around just pulling and integrating the systems together. And again, yeah, it was something we hear all the time, like just siloed data, siloed decision making, and getting it all pulled together.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thanks both for sharing your surprises. And now we will head over to a really important and super interesting topic, real world reflections on the survey. Before we start off here, I just wanted to very warmly invite everyone listening right now to share your questions. I already saw the first question coming in. Feel free to use the Q&A section instead of the chat for any questions. This just helps us keep it all in one place. And Jennifer, I also saw your question around the report. You can't stay until the end. That's not a problem at all. We will also be sharing it in our follow-up email, so everyone will have access. Thank you so much for asking. Okay, so now that we have learned about the key insights, I want to take a step back and look at those findings and basically with your perspective, Nicole, you talk to customers all the time. You've started to share a little bit of how this is resonating with what you're hearing. Yeah, maybe can you tell us more about any customer conversations? How they're relating? Do you have any story examples of, the field that echo or challenge the findings?
Oh, so many. I was like, where do I start? And I think, as I said earlier, when we kind of looked at that slide around the challenges, right? I think we had down there, I think the data visibility as some of the core challenges. And I think that really is reflected in what we're hearing as well. We see a lot of customers come to us first and foremost with a visibility struggle. So simply not being able to see what is going on or do any meaningful forecasting. And I think that ties back again into the maturity levels we talked about. So yeah, we see that a lot. Number one kind of challenge, and kind of getting that problem solved first and foremost. We spend a lot of time with our customers on to then get them to that higher level of maturity where they then actually can derive some insights from that data to then base decisions on. So there's definitely kind of a bit of a scale of what you do first to get to those higher levels of maturity. Some a bit more concrete examples, maybe. We've recently responded to an RFP from a big IT services company, and again, like a lot of what's in that survey actually got reflected in that RFP and in those requirements that company was looking for as well. They'd expanded really rapidly. I had a number of acquisitions that recently happened, and they did have some resource management in place, but they reported that for each of their business units were doing things kind of almost semi-independently, right? So they had one unit doing their resource scheduling in a spreadsheet. They had some people having custom-built tools. They had plugins. Some had dedicated software. So really, really hard to get any kind of more, again, strategic organizational view of what's going on. Again, it's kind of easy then to do in your own business unit, but if you need to look at it from the product company's perspective, it's then really hard to do that planning. Those are just two things that instantly jump to mind here.
Yeah, nice. Did you find any insight that doesn't reflect what you're hearing? To ask the other way around?
So you mean insights in the survey that we saw? Actually, nothing that stood out. I think. I mean, especially the key things here. We're all reflected. Data is the big topic. That's for sure. Capacity planning, getting more strategic, another big one. Maybe the around the kind of like the value of resource management, because when people come to us, usually there is they're looking at resource management tooling. That means they have already recognized that that is something that they want to work on. It's something important to the business. So we are kind of seeing often a push also from the C-suite to put tooling in place that then helps with centralizing all that data and getting good at resource management to then be able to use that for strategic decision making.
Yeah, listening to you, I get this very warm feeling because we're all in it together, right? I mean, everyone working in this field is experiencing very similar themes, patterns, challenges. And even though that's tough, it's also good to know we're not alone in this. And yeah, to know we have each other on that journey is extremely helpful in and of itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective. Now, as a last question, Hannah, I'm super curious. We've run the survey now for the first time in 2025. Will there be another resource management and filtered survey? What's the plan moving forward?
I think we've maybe hinted a little bit throughout when we've been talking about benchmarking and comparing next year. Yes, we would love to do this again next year. So everyone who submitted, keep your eyes out next year for another survey. And if you didn't get a chance, it'd be great to get as many responses to that as possible. But yeah, I think ideally we would do this every year, and then we can start to report on trends and how things are changing, not just what is happening in that year as resource management evolves and changes.
Nice, and I can see a lot of reactions coming in. I translate that as support for running more surveys in the future. Thank you for those reactions. Nice. Feel free to also upvote any questions in the Q&A. So that just helps me to prioritize the questions that are coming in. I'm going to start with Kathleen. Kathleen is sharing, it seems like some companies are prioritizing workforce planning and maybe separating this out from the resource management role. Is that what you are hearing as well? Who wants to take this one? Nicole, perhaps?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. It seems to be getting separated out a bit more, because I think the strategic workforce planning really kind of more longer term, really looking at more so kind of what are the wider trends that are happening, not just in the company, but also in the in the industry, in the market, and do really kind of those longer term predictions. But I think they depend on each other, right? Because you do need some of that kind of core data about your workforce and how it's currently shaped, how it's currently hanging together, to be able to then do the really kind of high level strategic planning, I would say.
And would it be a recommendation to separate these two perspectives, or would it be more helpful for that to be part of the same role, the resource management role?
I wouldn't say necessarily of the same role, but I think of the same. It should be part of the function. I think they need to kind of feed into each other, right? They cannot kind of work in isolation. So yeah, definitely both of it is very important. One gives you more that nearer term operational tactical view, and then you're getting obviously kind of more and more strategic. I would say it kind of starts with the resource management, the capacity planning, and then you're kind of moving further up the ladder to the more strategic workforce planning. So I would say different planning horizons we're looking at here.
Yes, thank you so much for taking that question. And if you have any add-ons, feel free. Otherwise, I can move on to the next one.
I think Nicole covered that very eloquently.
Yeah, fantastic. Nice. And thanks, Kathleen, for this beautiful question. Then we've got the next question, which is, the point about lack of trust in data really resonated. Do you have any practical tips about where or how to start addressing this? Great question.
Yes, we can
That's the
probably make
$1
it
million question.
we can probably
Your
make an
answer,
entire
Nicole.
webinar. I was saying we can probably make an entire webinar about just that topic. We should note that down. Yeah, it's a big one, right? So I think it's starting. We tell people kind of look at what are the core data you need first, because as I said, you have a lot of different data that needs to feed in. So kind of start a little bit small. What do you need first and foremost? Do you want to maybe leave the financial side out first and foremost, and focus on the utilization and that data? So for that, you need the demand data coming in, and you need some kind of core people data. So map that out, really create some, I guess, a process in the system first, mapping out what you need, how often you need it, and then work with the relevant departments in the organization to define who needs to provide it and how you'll keep it up to date. So yeah, but before you actually go into setting up the automations and setting up things, it's kind of the, all right, what do we actually need? Who is giving us that information? And then also, I guess I would always say, like, if you need data from maybe another department, explain the why, how this actually contributes to the wider organizational success to help you drive that.
Absolutely. I love that. And here again, we're really seeing the importance of breaking down silos, right? Once more. So I think you all as resource managers can play such a critical role in helping organizational silos to break down. So yeah, a very important move in any organization. Hannah, anything you would like to add around data, increasing trust in data, or steps?
No, I think I think we've got everything. But we also to plug some of our content, if I can take a sec, we've got lots of content around data and improving in those areas over on our blog.
Fantastic. Yeah, you definitely can plug that in. Adding value. Absolutely. Cool. Thank you. Next up, we've got Jennifer's question. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer's sharing, I noticed on the survey results that no one mentioned a hybrid model versus centralized, decentralized. I would be interested in knowing if a hybrid model is being adopted. Jennifer, you are a genius for asking this question, and maybe now is actually a good moment just to quickly share something, because we definitely think this is a very important and critical question. That's why we're dedicating our next webinar exactly to it. We've got the lovely Sid Mills, Nikki Chirpak, and Andrea Davis on our panel, the dream team, on the 24th of June to really dive into deciding on a resource management model, centralized, decentralized, or hybrid. I think Edem is also going to share the link. So we can definitely dedicate a whole webinar on this. So we're absolutely going to dive into all the different nuances right there and then. But also, Hannah and Nicole, if there's anything you want to share on that question right now, briefly, you're most invited to.
Yeah, I mean, in the report we talk a little bit about decentralization, but a great question about hybrid, and maybe something that we can dive into a little bit in the in the next state of resource management survey.
Nice, awesome, thanks. Nicole, any thoughts?
Yeah, we definitely kind of like see a mix of models, more so kind of like and run like the more kind of the centralization approach, kind of like getting everything into kind of like one kind of single source of truth. But yeah, there's a mix of models out there. So I would definitely say go sign up for that next webinar to get the inside scoop on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks. Wonderful. Next up, we've got, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Ghibli. Ghibli. I see you've talked about data. How do you plan about supporting these people who are not able to use this data tool? So a bit similar, perhaps. How do you plan to support these people who are not able to use this data tool? I wonder if you have any additional thoughts on that, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm kind of like interpreting the question, and you might want to add a little bit more in the question here in case I don't answer your question in the right way. I'm interpreting this as maybe how we're supporting our customers and run with the data challenge, and we do that in many ways. So and run very much following the more best of breed approach, right? Like we really focus on the resource management side and bringing all the data together. So we've got a lot of integration options. We've got a very strong API to help you kind of pull that data in. Now, in saying that, obviously, we also see that often the people we're talking to not necessarily have the technical resources in their team to be able to use the API or get these things kind of up and running. So for our teams, we do have a implementation team, and we focus a lot on change management and supporting our customers through that kind of big change process. So starting with even just kind of going, like, as I earlier said, like, what do we actually need? What do we need to fit in? Where do they need to go? How do they need to structure the data? First and foremost, and then we also help with getting the data in the system, either through the API, through integrations, supporting every step of the way.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much, Nicole, for shedding some light on that. And yeah, I think that was a good interpretation of the question. Cool, wonderful. We're almost at the hour. It's incredible. I'm always amazed every webinar how quickly it happens. But before we say goodbye, we really want to warmly invite you to download the full report, because the entire team at Run has put so much love and effort, care into not just synthesizing amazing insights, but also to create a nice visual framing around them so that the information is very accessible and it's actually really fun. So please feel warmly invited. Edom is going to share the link in the chat to get access, and it would be would make us very happy. The more people read it. Feel free to share it with any resource management friends out there who would benefit. And yeah, just a huge thank you, Nicole and Hannah, for joining us. It's been such a pleasure and so wonderful to hear both of your perspectives on the insights, both from a field perspective, Hannah, of having been kind of there from the very first idea of running it all the way through creating the report, and Nicole, your additional perspectives from conversations with resource managers is always very enlightening, I might say. So everyone, you will be getting a follow-up email from us with also the report and extra resources. And yeah, we're really hoping that this will help you. Feel free to share any feedback with us, on how we can make the report, the survey better next year, and also what has been especially helpful for you. It's always nice to understand what is helpful to you, because we're doing this just for you. So yeah, your feedback would be much, much, much appreciated. And as I mentioned, next month, we'll dive into the wonderful topic of resource management models. We would love to see you there. Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and keep challenging how we think about resource management. Goodbye. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.